By 1969, the Beatles were no longer the band the world believed them to be. The smiles on camera hid tension, exhaustion, and creative frustration that had been building for years. At the centre of it all stood George Harrison, the quiet Beatle, the one who had spent a decade standing in the shadows of Lennon and McCartney. But even the quiet ones have limits. George had grown as a songwriter. He had written While My Guitar Gently Weeps, Something, and Here Comes the Sun, songs that proved he was no longer the junior member. Yet inside the band, his voice was still treated as secondary. John and Paul dominated every session, arguing over arrangements, lyrics, and control. George's ideas were often dismissed or ignored. What had once been a brotherhood now felt like a cage.
During the Let It Be sessions in January 1969, that cage finally broke. The cameras were rolling as the Beatles tried to rehearse new material in a cold studio at Twickenham. The atmosphere was tense, the energy gone. Paul was trying to lead, John was distracted and detached. Ringo just wanted to play. George, patient as always, reached his breaking point. At one point, Paul began instructing George how to play his own guitar part. George, tired of being treated like a session player in his own band, quietly said, "I'll play whatever you want me to play, or I won't play at all." The room fell silent. It wasn't anger, it was resignation. A few days later, after another argument, George put down his guitar, walked out, and said simply, "See you around the clubs." For a moment, the Beatles were three. Lennon didn't seem surprised. "Let's get Clapton," he said half-jokingly. But under the sarcasm, there was panic. Without George, there was no Beatles sound. He wasn't just a guitarist, he was the band's balance, the one who softened the clash between John and Paul. While the others tried to continue without him, George went home to Liverpool and began writing. In his frustration came freedom, songs that would later appear on his solo masterpiece, All Things Must Pass. It was as if leaving the Beatles finally unlocked everything he had held inside. After a few tense days, the band convinced him to return. But things were never the same. George came back with conditions: no more pointless arguments, and more respect for his music. The band agreed, but deep down, everyone knew the magic was gone. That moment at Twickenham wasn't just George walking out of a room. It was the moment the Beatles began to truly fall apart. His quiet rebellion exposed what fans didn't want to see: that behind the greatest band in the world were four men who had stopped listening to each other. Years later, George reflected on that time without bitterness. "It was painful," he said, "but it was necessary." He had given the Beatles his best years, and when his spirit was no longer heard, he chose silence. It was the most peaceful kind of rebellion imaginable. A man who said nothing, and by walking away, said everything.